Hi, everyone, and thanks for joining us again for another Roofing Contractor Legal Q&A. I'm RC Editor Art Aisner, and I'm happy to be joined today by Trent Cotney, CEO of Cotney Construction Law, and RC Editorial Director Rick Damato. Thanks for joining us, guys. Trent, let's jump right into it. Lots of national news on the business front since we last spoke, and on things we've touched on before. Let's start with the Main Street lending program and the lender list that was released over the weekend.
And Art, Rick, pleasure to see you guys, man. It's always an honor. This is a crazy time, Art. I'll be honest with you. It's hard to keep up with what's going on, and there's always news coming out. And kind of parsing through what's important and what's not important is what we're trying to focus on. And with the Main Street lending program, what's interesting about that is you're starting to see a lot of the banks react to what we were talking about early on with the Paycheck Protection Program. This Main Street lending program, if you look at the lenders list, what it is for the people that don't know is that these are the lists, the Federal Reserve put this list out. It's a list of banks that are participating and providing small business and medium-sized business loans during COVID-19. And there are a lot of participants, right? There are some big banks, there's Bank of America, but what's interesting is you look at this list, it's missing some of the biggest banks that are out there, Chase, Citigroup, a lot of these others. And one of the things I've always been really concerned about is regardless of what government backing is out there, regardless of what's going on, you're gonna start seeing some bank weakness. And right now we're being artificially propped up, right? A lot of the conversations deal with, in Congress about the expiration of the increased amount for unemployment. When that's done, and when the moratoriums on evictions that some states have, when that's over, you're going to have a lot of defaults on these loans. You're going to have problems, and the banks are concerned about weakness. So when there are COVID-19 type programs, even though, the Paycheck Protection Program isn't a great example because it is backed by the SBA, but on these Federal Reserve, Main Street lending type programs, I would anticipate that the bank is concerned about having some of this on their books. And I think you're going to continue to see a lot of banks pull back on lending requirements, even though if you look at all the statistics, if you look at the stock market, everything is pretty good right now, right? It doesn't really match kind of what's going on in the news. I think that's going to rectify itself here pretty soon.
You mentioned the SBA. They also put some information out there, detailed data on the Paycheck Protection Program, which you mentioned. You talked about some of the privacy issues before. Is this what you were talking about?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is real interesting, and I want your listeners to pay attention to this because this is what I remember. We were talking. We were on this probably 6-7 weeks ago, and I said that be wary of any free handouts from the government, because there's always strings attached, okay? And this week, we saw a FOIA request. For those of you that don't know, it's a Freedom of Information Act request. It's like a public records request that you can submit, and this was submitted by a group to the Department of Treasury, and they asked for very specific information about the recipients of these loan funds, okay? So you probably saw the headlines where it said, certain people got them, and certain lobbying groups, and this and that, and all this other stuff. And what's interesting is that the Department of Treasury and the SBA even went a step further than what this request did. And in a tweet, they did this via tweet now. So whether or not this actually comes to fruition, we'll see. But they said that what they're going to do is actually parse it out by amount of loan, within a 150 to 350,000, 350,000 to $1 million, the amount that you received, your business name, your address, the type of business that you are. And like we talked about last time, if I live and breathe by data, right? It's something that I run my company on. If I'm a roofing contractor or someone in the trades that's doing, walls or ceilings and closing, anything like that, and I want to get an idea what my competition is doing, I can look at how much they received, figure out that's 2.5 times of what their payroll is, and get a pretty good idea what the revenue size is, right? So obviously there's some wiggle room there. Here's the other thing that is interesting is you get to kind of get a sense of how much they're subcontracting out, okay? So there's a lot of data there that I don't think people realized how public it was going to be. And not just how public, how easily accessible that data is, okay? So What the Department of Treasury and the SBA have said is that they're going to spoon feed it to you. So it's not just going to be in a CSV or an Excel file. They're going to have some of that stuff broken out so you don't have to data mine as much as you would. Very interesting. You know, I think, like I said, there's always strings attached. There's never a free handout.
Do you see some potential legal issues stemming from that, privacy protections? Could contractors have a leg to stand on if they want to challenge something?
Probably not, because at least with what they've said so far, okay, there is, you know, if it's sensitive information like, you know, social security numbers or things like that, clearly there are privacy protections with regard to that. But if you are requesting to receive money through a federal program, then certain information is going to be publicly accessible through the Freedom of Information Act. Now, there are exemptions, there are exceptions, but the stuff that I just listed, you know, dollar amount range, address, person that received it, all that's going to be publicly available. Okay, what's going to be interesting is you're going to have people take that data and then drill down into it further for their own purposes and possibly sell some of that information. Okay, one of the things that I tell contractors a lot is anybody can get data. Okay, it's not very hard to find out marketing data in a certain region or stuff like that. What's hard is to make sense out of it and to actually give you what you should do next, right? That's what I think is going to happen. Is you're going to have third parties, whether it's news channels or it's whatever organization, they're going to come in, they're going to extrapolate this data, and then they're going to be able to spoon feed it to anybody that wants it.
Well, all right. So the jury's not out yet on the Paycheck Protection Program. That said, we did also get an extension, right, up for another month. Can you break down the importance of that for contractors?
Yeah, you know, they had talked before. We've heard originally they were going to extend it all the way till the end of the year. This they made official because it was about to time out. They extended it to August 8th. I anticipate they probably extended it a little bit more. There are still funds available. So as long as there are funds available, they'll probably continue extending it. You know, I mentioned the problems with unemployment expiring and how there may be some ramifications associated with that. One of the issues is I think a lot of these businesses are artificially inflated with these PPP funds. You know, it's right now what the government is doing, whether it's federal or state government, is to use the COVID analysis, they're flattening the curve, right? They're flattening the curve of economic issues with these stimulus type funds, with these paycheck protection program, with this extra unemployment, okay? Whether or not that's the correct thing to do, I don't know. But I can tell you at some point that runs out, okay? And I think the politicians are hoping that we can get through COVID quickly enough to rebound to deal with this issue. What we've seen, especially in the spiking areas like Florida and Arizona, California, Texas, is this isn't over. I mean, I think all three of us probably thought in March that we wouldn't be talking about this in July, right? You know, I was looking at my calendar and I was planning all kinds of trips all over the place. You know, my wife and son and I were going to go on vacation. It was going to be great. And now, you know, I'm sitting here in the epicenter of COVID in Florida. So I anticipate that we're going to continue to deal with this for many, many months to come. That's the concern, is these free handouts, this money, it's going to dry up. And then when that happens, that economic reality is going to hit, which is going to change a lot of the optimism we're seeing in the stock market and elsewhere.
So safe to say you're a little skeptical of then a second stimulus package coming together if we're already worried about how the first one is working?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a fight. You know, I do think something will be passed. It is an election year, you know, so I do think something will be passed. But, you know, the arguments on each side is, you know, hey, we need more money because it's about to run out. Things are still bad. On the other side, the unemployment numbers have gone down a couple of times. Even though, you know, I think one of the things that we've started to realize is you can't necessarily trust everything you hear in the news. The first thing I learned in sociology class was that statistics can be manipulated. So a lot of times if you really drill down into these statistics, especially the unemployment rates, they're parsing out COVID unemployment versus regular unemployment. Okay, so it could be a little misleading. But a lot of these stats are being used to make sure that you've got that kind of stuff, you know, that you're capable of arguing against these additional stimulus packages if that's an issue. Ultimately, I would anticipate that there's going to be something that happens. You know, I know Mitch McConnell suggested recently that he was in favor of something. That's a good indication that you're going to see something. Whether or not it happens this month, I don't know. I think because it is an election year, it's pretty hard not to see something happening. But how that looks and whether or not it's truly going to be effective, it remains to be seen.
What else are you hearing from contractors that's on their worry list?
Yeah, so I can tell you, we measure the issues based on the number of phone calls that we receive in our customer service department. And what we do is daily, those issues, we track it weekly, but daily we get updates on what the biggest issues are, because it's important that anybody here in this office has the ability to respond to that. So I can tell you this past up to today's date, the biggest issues that we've had is in the areas where we previously were not seeing a lot of phone calls related to COVID infection of crews. We are now getting those phone calls. So I mentioned to you before how it's hard to kind of trust the news and statistics and everything else. I trust the phone calls. So I know there is a problem in Florida and Texas. I know it because we are getting calls daily from crews that have been infected by COVID. Okay, I wasn't getting that before. So that matches the data that I'm seeing out there. So I know for a fact there's a problem. And what we're getting is in addition to just understanding and being able to navigate, what do you do if someone in your crew is infected? You need to understand about proximity and duration. How long were they around somebody? Was it 15 minutes or more? And were they within 6 feet or less? Okay, did they have direct contact? If so, you need to be able to tell those employees that they've got a potential issue. You need to take proper precautions, do temperature checks, ask the questions, quarantine if necessary. But Art, here's the thing, is we've had a lot of requests from contractors, anybody doing vertical construction, from owners and developers requesting enhanced job site protection programs. So when this thing first started, we worked on a job site protection program that dealt with, okay, here's how we're going to approach COVID. Okay, they are asking for something that's even more robust than that. They're looking for the SOP for what you're going to do. They want to drill down into the nuances. How are you going to take temperatures? How does that look? Where does this happen? Okay, and a lot of this is coming from big box stores. It's coming from, federal and state type projects, the more sophisticated owners and developers. But contractors are having to scramble to have these types of policies in place because it goes above and beyond anything that they've had to do before. Very interesting. It's a significant problem, and it's having an impact on production with the amount of crews that are being hit. I do anticipate that although those few states are spiking now, I think it's going to travel up again. I think we're going to be in that first wave for a long time now.
Okay, well, that's certainly that's some sobering news to think about. Turning perhaps a little bit more to the positive side, you do have some exciting news to share on the international front again here with RC. Please tell us. Sure.
So we love the industry, right? It's something that's very near and dear to our heart. I consider you guys close friends, and one of the things that we're really inspired by is doing everything that we can to fight for the industry. And that's what I'm passionate about now. Okay. That's what inspires me now. So one of the things that we started looking into was expanding our presence internationally. And we've made some really good friends with the International Federation for the Roofing Trades that's based out of Germany. We're pleased to announce that Cotney Consulting Group is the first full voting member, North American member for the IFD. And in addition, John Kinney, our Chief Operating Officer, is going to serve on several technical committees. And he's a valued resource, obviously 45 years experience in the industry. So we're very, very excited to be involved with the Federation. It includes European countries, South Africa, China. And what this does is it helps us gain a better understanding of what's going on in roofing worldwide. So we can take it back to, our friends here in the US and Canada and make sure that we're getting all that information. We don't just get one small piece, we get the whole picture. So very excited about it. Feel very blessed to be have the opportunity to participate and really looking forward to it.
Okay, that sounds exciting. Best of luck with all that. And looking forward to seeing what American input, what they're going to be interested in and what the overall result of that will be. Rick, I'll throw this over to you now.
Thanks, Art. Trent, I want to start off by saying thanks. I really appreciate what you do here with us at Roofing Contractor. It brings great value to our readers and viewers. And I want to thank them too for tuning in. And I know that they get a lot out of what you have to tell them. We do. One of the things you started off when we started having these video calls at the beginning, way back in March, or maybe it was February. I can't remember. It's been so long. That cash is king and you need to hold on tight. And your good clients that listen to you went through a process, an enhanced process of collections, making the calls, sending the letters, all the way up to calling Cotney Construction Law to file suit and go get them. Where is that standing now? Are you getting those calls now? Is there a ramping up of collections?
We are, and I think people they got the message, and that is that you know, don't rest on your laurels. You know, it's one of the things. You know, obviously I'm a lawyer, so I've got to be pessimistic and I've got to give you doom and gloom. It's my job. But if I'm looking at the sort of the silver lining here, there's a lot of success stories out there of people that have really taken advantage of technology, have really been able to sort of turn the corner and evolve their business. You know, one of my good friends, King Kelly, he's really done a great job on the residential side, expanding his business during these times. There's a lot of great examples of contractors that are doing that. And I think, yeah, you know, we are getting those phone calls and are helping contractors be a lot more proactive in collecting rather than waiting to 90, 120, whatever. You know, it's getting that money now, because you just think about all the big name companies that have gone bankrupt recently. You don't want to be in that situation. So yeah, definitely, it's, you know, don't get lazy, don't rest easy, because we have yet to see the worst of it. It's still coming. So good practices now will help save you later.
Right, I appreciate that. And we're always about the silver lining, but related to collections and sort of businesses in peril, are you seeing any more activity on the merger and acquisition side?
Absolutely. You know, I think there's an uptick. You know, we have been heavily involved with a lot of the M&A stuff with pre-COVID. And although we can't kiss and tell, there was a lot of big major announcements that we were pleased to be a part of. You know, I think there is some opportunity anytime you have either incredible strength or incredible weakness or a combination of both in the market. You're going to see a lot of those types of things happen. So I would anticipate that you know, you are going to see businesses taking advantage of these times. Those businesses that were smart and have the cash and the capability to do great things are doing that. You know, there's no better time than to take advantage of the ability to sit in front of a computer and do whatever it is you need to do. That's how I look at it, right? I mean, I love to travel. I miss you guys. You know, I miss being able to go all over the place, but this is a blessing for me because I get to truly focus 100% on this business. You know, I am not distracted by anything other than what I got to do here. If I don't do that, then I'm sure my wife's yelling at me to clean out the garage again. So I'm just kidding. But, you know, that's the idea is you focus, you know, use this as an opportunity to focus. And yeah, I absolutely think that people that have played it smart will take advantage of this opportunity and look for the opportunity to expand equipment purchases, purchase other companies, add on other branches, all those types of things. Now is the time to strike because the rest of the world is sleeping.
And that's one of the axioms from Warren Buffett. If everybody's running for the door, you run away from it. Mm-hmm. But great opportunities. I mean, even a clean garage is something that's nice to have. Thanks, Trent. Back to you, Art.
Right. Trent, thanks again for lending us your time and your insight. Tell us how people can find out more about you.
Sure. Well, they can always hit me up on my email, tcotney@cotneycl.com, or go to our website, cotneycl.com.
All right. And we appreciate everybody out there for taking the time you've spent with us today. Be sure to follow our continuing coverage of the roofing industry right here at roofingcontractor.com. And be sure to sign up and subscribe to our new digital edition, just at the button to our above and to our right. Thanks again. Stay safe out there. We'll see you next time.